And this is the story of two Chinas, or one China with a split personality. China the dragon that threatens anybody who dares to question its narrative, and China the victim that has the rhetoric of victimhood deeply embedded in its narrative. I say this because for months we have been criticized for calling this virus what it is, a made-in-China virus, a Wuhan virus, a Chinese virus. The Chinese regime has threatened those who say this. It's racist, they say. For months we've been told that the virus must not be identified by the place of its origin. Don't call it the Wuhan virus, they say. It is wrong. It stigmatizes a country or a region. China kept preaching the world. But the same rules, it seems, do not apply to China. Let me show you something. A tweet by the Chinese state-run newspaper Global Times. It's from the 23rd of April. Let me quote what it says. China's Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs warned in a Wednesday circular about the risk of African horse sickness spreading into China. The nearest outbreak in Thailand is only 800 kilometers away from China, posing a relative high risk. I'm going to repeat some of the words from this statement in case you missed them. China is citing an outbreak in Thailand. It has a name for this virus, the African horse sickness. Not only is China labeling another country as the source of this outbreak, it is also being racist by calling it the African horse sickness. Wouldn't this lead to stigmatization of African and Thai nationals? I hope not. All I want to do is expose China's hypocrisy, especially given how much racist hatred Africans are already suffering in China. Across the country, the African community has been blamed for the second wave of coronavirus cases. African nationals have been spat on and attacked in China. They're not being allowed to enter shops. The Chinese regime has no moral authority whatsoever to complain about racism or disinformation regarding its response. And yet, some global platforms think otherwise. First, it was the World Health Organization. Now it is the European Union. It seems to have bowed to the dragon's domineering. The European Union has revised its report on coronavirus disinformation. The EU has softened its criticism of China's handling of the outbreak. Sentences about China's global disinformation campaign have been removed. Also dropped from the report are mentions of China's disputes with other nations over the origin of the virus. Why did the EU do this? Reports say that Beijing pressurized the European Union and offered trade concessions. In other words, China threatened and bribed them. So EU representatives now say it is better to quote-unquote forget the politics. What else do they want forgotten? How the Chinese regime silenced whistleblowers, how it re-educated journalists, how it did nothing to stop the virus from crossing its borders, how Chinese money is rewriting the narrative around this pandemic, or how the Chinese regime is exploiting this crisis, a crisis of its own making. Health bodies and intergovernmental platforms may wish to forget this in the name of business. We won't. Our questions will continue.